Hi everyone, it's Alicia Miller. I'm the founder of Core Emotional Healing, and today is day one of my new Facebook series called Messages from a Wounded Inner Child. What are your symptoms trying to tell you? And the purpose of this series is to help you recognize your symptoms. Most often people are just living with things that are actually symptoms of something. And there's often beliefs that I am just this way, or I have this disorder because it runs in my family, or it's a chemical imbalance. And there's a lot of things that you may just be accepting about yourself that is actually a sign of something for you to heal and address. And by addressing the root cause of all of these symptoms that I'm going to be going over, it's not just about the symptoms. And that's why my tagline is that your symptoms are a gift, because by addressing the cause of your symptom, you actually release the limits of your life and how you've been living and what you've been receiving, or the blocks that you've had in terms of creating what you really want, or attracting the love that you really want, and accessing your gifts. So there's so much more, and I really am excited to share this information to help you see symptoms in a different way, for you to embrace your symptoms as a gift, and to not accept them, to know that they don't define you either, that it's not just how you are, or that's what you have. That is a sign or a manifestation of what needs to be addressed. So it's just manifesting in different ways for different people. Myself, with my own healing journey, and most everyone I work with and everyone who signed up for this series has multiple symptoms. So you may recognize within yourself that you have digestive problems and anxiety and food cravings. And you may have all of these things that are all related, and they're all coming from the same place. So with that in mind, you can see that you don't have to try to control these symptoms or treat them or live with them, that you can actually heal the root cause of them. So go ahead, and I just welcome everyone who's joining me. And if you're listening to this recording, please share with me in the comments some of your symptoms. And if you have already made the connection that they're coming from your wounded inner child, or if you're not sure what that means, let me know too. But in my own healing journey, I had been addressing ongoing physical symptoms, and I had just accepted that I was an emotional eater. And I had some compulsions, and I had things that I just thought were me, that's just how I was. So what I learned, though, was that I was trying to address these physical symptoms that kept flaring up in certain relationships. So I saw that connection. I said, these must be emotional. Like my candida would flare up, and digestive problems and bloating. And then I saw that, it happened in certain relationships that were triggering that. What I discovered is, once I healed my wounded inner child that was trying to get my attention through my physical symptoms, then I was able to shift everything else without even trying. And all of a sudden I discovered I no longer had any desire to eat, and that emotional eating, that craving that I couldn't control was no longer there. And that's like probably the biggest surprise of my healing journey. I was like, oh my God, I no longer emotionally eat, and I don't have to work at it or try or not eat certain things. It's not there at all. So that was 6 years ago. That was like a bonus that came. And then, all these other things, I was like, oh, this has happened too. And oh, I no longer have this. And actually my mind is clear. And so all these things were just like a natural result. So I'm sharing this with you to show you that the things that you think you just have or you've always had are symptoms. So start recognizing your symptoms as symptoms. And symptoms mean they're a sign and they're a manifestation of something causing it. All right, so like for example, I'm starting with emotional eating because it's the most obvious. Emotional eating and eating disorders to me, even though I didn't know it was a symptom and I didn't know it was an emotional, it's the most obvious emotional symptom. The name is even in there, emotional eating. So emotional eating is emotional. It has nothing to do with food. Just like addictions has nothing to do with the thing that you're using. That is also emotional. I struggled with every addiction. I'm going to be covering addictions tomorrow on day 2. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but I knew it wasn't ever about the alcohol, drugs, sex, work, achieving whatever I used. I knew I was using those things. I didn't know why I was using them until much later. So hi everyone who's just joining. I would love to hear from anyone who wants to share anything about your symptoms or any questions that you have about your symptoms. Today's topic is emotional eating and eating disorders, but feel free to ask me any other questions. So, I see so many people trying to address their symptoms with just treating it or trying to control it. So emotional eating, instead of seeing that it's emotional and focusing on the emotional cause of it or learning about what you're repressing when you're eating emotionally. I see people trying to control their food, which just will never work. Same with eating disorders. Eating disorders isn't always about what people think it's about. I also had dealt with bulimia. I never told myself or anyone that I was bulimic. I just knew it was something going on with me that was causing me to binge and purge. And I discovered much later on that I was really feeling sick within myself, like sick with shame and sick with the love that I experienced as a child, that actually made me want to binge and purge. So it wasn't, and so eating disorders are pretty complex, but the root of them and emotional eating is a wounded inner child and repressed emotions and limiting beliefs about love and about yourself, not feeling safe in the world. So there's a process to go through to release those things that are creating that turmoil within that causes you to eat or control or restrict. There's also a lot of shame and guilt involved, and then the eating or binging and purging creates even more, but it's just all there. It's not created by the binging and purging so much, but it just keeps getting triggered over and over. So yeah, there's all of these symptoms that I'm reviewing are emotional. So I want you to see, and feel free to comment, that by focusing on the thing that you think is the symptom, will just keep you stuck in it. So it's not about the food, it's not about the alcohol or drugs or sex or love addiction or feeling scared about being in a relationship or untrusting in relationships. It's not about the insomnia. I'm going to be covering that later on this week as well, or the anxiety or the depression. Those are all symptoms of repressed emotions. And it's not just repressed emotions. There's a lot of things. It's not just about feeling what you're feeling right now. It's about going back and learning how to access what has been repressed and how to reparent yourself. So it's a process. I'm not going to be able to cover what it is about for you specifically, but I like this purpose of the series is to help you see your symptoms in a different way, of saying that there is something causing your anxiety. There is something causing your depression, your physical symptoms, your digestive problems. And the things that you may be using to feel better isn't necessarily healing you and releasing the symptom, as you may know. So a lot of people that come to me, that work with me, that follow me, I've been, all of the forms I received for the series has a whole list this long of what you've tried that doesn't work. So you can see the things that you're trying and you still have anxiety. And maybe the yoga and meditation or herbs and things help control it, but it's not healing it. Does anyone have any questions so far, or anything that you'd like to share that's here with me live? Thanks for joining, everyone. I hear from people that one thing that can keep you from continuing to work in finding the source of your symptom is the belief that you've already done it, or you've already done everything that you can, and your symptom is showing you that you haven't yet. So the symptom is still there because there's still more for you to address or to feel or to be with and take care of with yourself, within yourself, in terms of healing from trauma and the pattern that comes from trauma. And trauma is really how you have internalized neglect, abandonment, any type of abuse, shaming, any parental, the way we were parented. Most people were parented with shame. Hardly anyone's parents were doing emotional healing, so they weren't with their own pain, so they couldn't handle yours. So there's all these subtle ways that we felt abandoned emotionally, and that we just made it okay and pushed it away. And so the pushing away is actually what's coming out through symptoms in your body, in your mind. And the way that we have learned to cope and comfort is through these things like eating, shopping, addictions like that, every addiction. So these are just all symptoms of what has been repressed. And it is important to work with someone to help you go into what you haven't yet that is contributing to it, making that connection of what's up for you now. Even though you may have done a lot of emotional healing, there's all layers that come up over time. I continue to do emotional healing. I continue to process whatever is coming up. So that embracing the journey in that way will help you get out of that way of resisting or protecting in the defense of, I've already done it. How do I move on from it? Or how do I release this? Well, how you release it is knowing that there's still more, and to seek help and to get help processing what is up for you now. So in terms of emotional eating, just want to see if anyone has any questions on this topic. Again, I shared in the beginning, I just thought it was something that I always had and I'll always have. I didn't even think it was possible to not be an emotional eater. So the first thing is know that it's a symptom and it's not something you have to live with. I still think it's a miracle that I have no cravings at all, and it's a sign of really taking care of my emotional needs. And so learning how to take care of your emotional needs is a part of the healing. And learning how to take care of your emotional needs means addressing things from your past as they're coming up for healing. So the triggers, any insecurities, self-doubts, where do these come from? Feeling and processing any anger and sadness and grief from where they come from. Being with your inner child in a loving and nurturing way, which means accepting yourself as you are, loving yourself as you are. Setting healthy boundaries is huge. So that was a big part of me releasing emotional eating as well, learning to say no and standing up for yourself and asking for what you need helps create safety within your emotional body. So you will be taking care of yourself, and so your body feels safe with you and safe with other people, because you know how to say no or not be around people who are not good for you or who are sucking your energy or disrespecting you.